Hello. Okay, so we're going to finish off chapter 13 today. I'm going to crack on straight away. Okay. I don't like to correct you, said the Queen of the Field Mice, but I think you said zizzy zuzzy zook. It should be zook at the end, but it shouldn't be zook at the end, but zik. It should be zizzy zuzzy zik. And I think for the spell to work, you have to stand on your left foot only and wiggle your right. Try again. So Dorothy closed her eyes tight shut, concentrated very hard, and stood on one leg and said the magic spell again. At once they came. Down through the clouds flew the winged monkeys chattering. I didn't like them one bit. I never had, with their hairy arms, their great flapping wings and their pointed ears, like huge, ugly, chattering bats they were. I barked at them ferociously and couldn't wait to have a go at them, give one of them a good bite when they landed. Dorothy picked me up and held me tight as they came down all around us. You called? Said the leader. What is your command? To take us to the Emerald City as fast as you can, Dorothy told him, clutching me tightly because she knew very well it was biting I had in mind. Before we knew it, those winged monkeys had picked us up and we were being flown away, the little field mice below waving goodbye to us and becoming littler with every moment. I've never been so frightened in all my life. Up through the clouds we were flown, higher and higher. I closed my eyes and just hoped the winged monkey would not drop me. I'd seen what they had once done to Tin Woodman, remember? Then, after a while, I forgot I was frightened, and the gentle rhythmic swish of their wings sent me to sleep. When I woke, I was being set down on my feet outside the great green gates of the Emerald City, and we were all standing there looking in amazement at one another, the winged monkeys flying off into the clouds above us. Well, said Tin Woodman, shaking himself, trying out all his joints to make sure they were all still working. How was your flight, my friends? First class, said Dorothy, patting her golden cap and looking up at the great green gates of the Emerald City. Useful, this golden cap, isn't it? And I can still call on those winged monkeys twice more if we need them. Just so long as I don't forget the spell. Isn't it wonderful? They brought us all the way back. Now, let's not waste any time. Let's go right in to see the great and terrible Wizard of Oz. We've done what he said, killed the Wicked Witch of the West, and this golden cap is the proof he said we had to bring. If he's a wizard of his word, he will want us to grant us our wishes. He promised us, didn't he? Promises, promises, Scarecrow mumbled doubtfully to himself as Dorothy was ringing the bell. The gates opened, and there stood the same guardian we had met before, dressed in his green uniform as usual, and with a green moustache, but now it was neatly trimmed. It was strange being in a green place again after all that yellow. You've changed, said the guardian, looking up at the Tin Man. You're yellow. And you are green, replied the Tin Woodman. You can't judge people by their colour, said Scarecrow. It's what goes on in our brains that matters. And in our hearts, said Tin Woodman. But weren't you going to visit the Wicked Witch of the West? The guardian asked, handing us out those same glasses to wear again. That's where we've been, Dorothy replied. Well, I'm truly amazed she let you go, said the guardian. How brave you must have been. It's nice to have you back again. Believe me, Dorothy told him, we are more than glad to be here. And you are much nicer than when we last saw you. I like your moustache much better, much nicer. Thank you, he said. That's very kind. I looked at Dorothy and she smiled. I could tell she was only being polite. My sixth sense again. We were walking up the same street now where we had walked before. Everything was just as bright and sparkling as ever, just as green. And there were the same green sausages in the butcher's window. I licked my lips and Lion licked his. I couldn't resist. I dashed in. No one was looking. No one saw me. Sometimes it is really useful to be small. Lickety-split, I snatched the sausages and was out of there. Lion and I shared them as we walked along. He had more than me, but it was only fair as he's a bit bigger. Green sausages were the best, I decided. The best in the whole wide world. Even better than in Kansas. Though then I felt a little guilty for liking anyone's sausages better than Auntie Em's. The others were walking on. They never even noticed. We licked our lips clean, of course, and then ran and caught up with them. You look happy, Toto, said Dorothy, which means you've been naughty. You're wagging your tail so hard it'll fall off. You may not believe this, Dorothy went on, turning to the guardian, but that warty old Wicked Witch of the West didn't exactly just let us go. We melted her in water, freezing cold water. Melted her? The guardian cried in astonishment. You melted her all by yourself? Sort of, you could say that, Dorothy replied, smiling at me. The guardian was beside himself with joy. He was shouting the news out loud up and down the street, and soon there was a huge crowd following us along towards the great palace of Oz in the centre of the city. They've done for the Wicked Witch of the West, the guardian was shouting it out. They've melted her, done her for once and for all. She's kicked the bucket, dropped off her perch. The Wicked Witch of the West is a goner. The bells began to ring all over the city, and everyone was cheering us, waving to us from windows and showering us with green petals and green roses. Inside the Palace of Oz, everyone had heard the news, and the whole palace was a buzz of excitement. "How happy the great wizard will be," they cried. To start with, we were all a bit bemused by this fuss and bother, but soon enough we began to enjoy it, to bask in the glory of it. Lion and I trotted along, our tails high, waving them proudly. Scarecrow and Tin Woodman and Dorothy waved their hands because they didn't have tails. We were all waving whatever we had to wave, loving every moment of it. We were so happy. "I shall soon have my heart," said Tin Woodman. "And I'll have my brains," said Scarecrow. "And I shall soon have courage," said Lion. "And Toto and I shall soon be home in Kansas with Aunt Em and Uncle Henry," said Dorothy. "Home is home," chorused the Tin Man, the Scarecrow and the Lion. "And home is best." "You're so doggone right," I woofed. We thought we would be shown in at once to see the great and terrible Wizard of Oz, but the Guardian said that the wizard always slept in the afternoons and would be pleased to see us in the morning. The Guardian gave us a feast of food and then showed us to a great bedchamber with huge wide bed and a roaring log fire from which Scarecrow kept a safe distance. "Sparks," he said, "aren't good for me." After we had eaten our fill, those of us who ate, we all lay down together on the bed, Scarecrow and Tin Woodman too. They all linked arms and I lay with my head on Dorothy's lap. We were fast asleep before we knew it, and I dreamed of green sausages and the farmhouse in Kansas and rounding up the cows and chasing rats and rabbits. Come the morning, the Guardian led us down a long, long corridor to see the great and terrible wizard. We walked into his throne room, arms linked again, me at Dorothy's heel, all of us happy, all of us full of hope. But the room was strangely silent and empty. There was no one there. Then at last came the voice, his voice. It seemed to come from everywhere, from all around us. "I am Oz, the great and terrible," it boomed. "We know who you are," Dorothy said, looking about her as we all were. "But where are you?" "I'm on my throne. I'm invisible. You cannot see me," came the reply. "I hear you have done away with the Wicked Witch of the West." "We have," replied Dorothy. "And look, I'm wearing her magic golden cap to prove it. I melted her with a bucket of water. It was easy, really. And now you must keep your promises to all of us." "Promises, promises," came the voice. "Maybe I will, maybe, but I'm a bit busy right now. I shall have to think about it. Come back tomorrow, maybe tomorrow." "Maybe?" cried Dorothy, stamping her foot angrily. "Now listen here, Mr. Wizard. You made promises to us, faithful promises, and you are going to keep them. You hear me?" She was not just angry, she was furious. So I barked, because if Dorothy was furious, I was furious too. Tin Woodman stamped his feet clankily and whirled his axe about his head, and Scarecrow, too, was mad with anger, shaking himself so hard that his straw began to fall out. And Lion roared. He let out a roar that shook the chandeliers and rattled the windows. He was standing right beside me. I hadn't been expecting a roar like that. Shock of it made me jump half out of my skin. I turned and bolted. I was so frightened I ran smack right into a silk screen and sent it crashing to the ground. And, to complete our astonishment, we saw standing there, where the silk screen had been, a little old man, rather bald, with wispy hair, in a raggedy tweed suit, wearing a monocle and leaning on a cane. Dorothy cried out in surprise. I barked, the Lion roared, Tin Woodman raised his axe again, and Scarecrow was waving his arms, rustling his straw as he always did when he was agitated. But no one said a word. "You are the Wizard of Oz?" Dorothy breathed at last. "Well, kind of," the old man replied. "Sort of. I guess you could say that." The next chapter is called The Really Confusing Wizard of Oz. So we'll get to that next week. All right, I hope you have a fabulous weekend, and we shall see you again on Monday. Okay, bye.